Consideration of motion M105 concerning amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, standing in the name of Ms. Sgro.
Ms. Sgro, seconded by Mr. Drouin, moves that in light of the death of over 1,000 Canadians each year, including the tragic loss of the Honourable Maurice Bélanger, former MP for Ottawa-Vanier, on August 16, 2016, as a consequence of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, the House, A, reiterate its desire and commitment to, in collaboration with provincial and territorial stakeholders, combat ALS via research and awareness, and B, call upon the government to increase funding for ALS research and to substantially increase national efforts to develop and launch a comprehensive strategy to assist with the eradication of ALS at the earliest opportunity. Debate. The Honourable Member for Humber River Black Creek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. To paraphrase the great Lou Gehrig, today I feel like the luckiest person in the world. And I say this because for the first time in my 18-year federal legislative career, I am rising to debate a private member's motion in my own name. It took a long time to get here. And I am excited by the opportunity to use this legislative tool to shine a light on something as important as ALS, often referred to as Lou Gehrig's disease. It is with humility and honor that I rise to launch the debate on Motion 105, and in doing so, it is my hope that all members in this place will stand together and pass M105 without delay. I appreciate that the member for Glengarry Prescott Russell has seconded this motion, and I am hopeful that members in all parties will support M105 as a way of standing with all those suffering with ALS. You see, more than 1,000 Canadians die each year because of ALS, and all are robbed of their freedom while being slowly trapped within their own bodies. Their physical decline is dramatic, and their families can do little but sit back and wait for the end. Certainly those of us in this House have known many with ALS, and we have watched as these brave men and women did battle with a relentless foe. It was less than a year ago that the Honourable Maurice Bélanger, suffering the effects of ALS, presided over this House as an honorary speaker. He had been diagnosed with ALS in the fall of 2015. At what should have been a time of celebration for him and his family, it turned out to be a somber realization that his world was about to change profoundly and that his time was running out. Worse yet, his wife Catherine and their children were forced to sit back and watch as Maurice first lost his voice, then his strength, and eventually his fight against ALS. But Maurice was not alone. Many of us in this place will remember Richard Wackett, Brian Parsons, and even our former clerk, William Corbett. Each of these people contributed so much to this place and to Canada. Yet they were struck down without warning, reason, and without mercy. In the wake of these tragic losses, and hundreds of others, colleagues such as the member for Dufferin-Caledon, the member for Cape Breton-Canso, and even the Prime Minister have all made emotional statements in the House in support of the fight against ALS. I can even confirm that our Prime Minister, the Leader of the Official Opposition, the Leader of the NDP, the MP for Portage Lisgar, the Treasury Board President, and many more have accepted the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge and took the plunge against ALS. Together, we helped raise more than $19 million for ALS research. A significant accomplishment, but we need to think longer term. Put another way, our parliamentary family has been deeply touched by ALS, and members have responded, all members in this House and all parties, by raising awareness and money. M105 is the next step in our fight against ALS. We know that ALS is an unforgiving and brutal disease that gradually paralyzes the body. Someone in otherwise good health will gradually lose the ability to talk, to move, to eat, to swallow, and eventually breathe. Right now, there are approximately 3,000 Canadians living with ALS. And that reason that number is not bigger is because 80% of the people with ALS die within 2 to 5 years of their diagnosis. And as we saw in Muril's case, sometimes it is significantly less than that. But let's talk about Muril for a moment. Muril's journey with ALS was highly visible due to his role as a Member of Parliament, but shines a light on not only what it looks like to have the disease, but also the circle of family members, friends, and colleagues who are affected when someone is diagnosed with ALS. The mobility and communication needs of someone diagnosed with ALS are great and have a tremendous financial burden on everyone involved. It is estimated that ALS has a minimum cost to families of somewhere between $150,000 to $250,000. This does not include the loss of salary that often comes about when a family member leaves their job to care for their loved one full-time, which is usually required. Families faced with an ALS diagnosis must make difficult decisions that attempt to balance the desire for a good quality of life with the cost of achieving that. For example, many people diagnosed with ALS prefer to live at home rather than a care facility. But staying at home frequently requires modifications to accommodate wheelchairs, bathroom aids, lifts, and beds, not to mention the nursing care that is required for someone who is increasingly paralyzed. For families whose loved one has ALS, these decisions have financial and emotional implications that last long after ALS has taken that person's life. Well, there are about 3,000 Canadians living with ALS at any one time. The broader circle of people affected, of course, is much larger. It is fair to say that in each of our ridings, people are dying of ALS, and their family members' lives are changed forever, because ALS has a lasting financial and emotional impact. ALS kills nearly 1,000 Canadians each year, and a similar number are diagnosed with ALS each year. This creates a revolving door of people who have a disease with no cure and no effective treatment. A disease that limits their remaining days in more ways than one, because not only has their life been significantly shortened, it has also been changed by a host of new needs as their mobility declines and their ability to communicate lessens. Canadians with ALS have said their experience with the disease is like being buried alive or dying in slow motion. It is hard to believe that today, in 2017, that there is still no cure. There are also no effective treatments, and the causes of the disease are unknown. Fewer than 10% of ALS cases are inherited from a family member, meaning that at least 9 out of 10 people diagnosed with ALS develop it seemingly at random. Each one of us in this room has a 1 in 400 chance of being diagnosed with ALS over the course of our lives, which brings me to why research is so important. It is one of the few things that people and families affected by ALS can be hopeful about. Research may not change their own path, but they fervently hope that it will change the path for others who will be diagnosed in the future. Globally, there has been more progress in ALS research in the last 5 years than in the last 100 years. Most leading researchers and clinicians in the field believe we have the tools today to at least understand how ALS is caused. This means there is tremendous potential for the development of effective treatments for the first time ever. But the limitation to developing these treatments, of course, is resources. Resources in the form of research investment. Historically in Canada, ALS research has been funded at approximately $1.5 to $2 million per year through the ALS Society of Canada. There are no other significant Canadian funding mechanisms that are focused exclusively on ALS research. As I have already mentioned, the Ice Buckets Challenge was a huge success, but without an ongoing and sustainable funding mechanism, Canada's ALL research efforts will soon return to traditional funding levels. That means that we are at risk of losing the research momentum at a time when ALS research holds more promise than ever before. So many members participated in that challenge, and in doing so, were part of a tremendous movement that is helping to advance ALS research and provide support and care to people living with the disease. M105, as I said earlier, is the next step. On the day that Muriel presided over this House, our Prime Minister Trudeau and the other party leaders all encouraged Canadians to support the organizations that are working to find a cure for ALS. Since then, an all-party ALS caucus has been created to better understand the care and research challenges that ALS presents, as well as opportunities to address them. Today, I'm calling on all members to live up to that promise. The first part of my motion asks that the House continue its commitment to ALS research and awareness, working with stakeholders in our provinces and territories. Besides being the only significant funding mechanism dedicated to ALS research across Canada, the ALS Society of Canada is part of a network of ALS societies with a provincial presence. I support the government's ongoing work with ALS societies across Canada, especially as it strives to maximize our impact towards making ALS a treatable, non-terminable disease. So often things that we debate here in this place are divisive. M105, of course, is not divisive. It is not complex. It does not place one party over another. Imagine the ability for Canadians to be part of a global legacy that could change the meaning of an ALS diagnosis. By investing in ALS research, we could help make that change happen. Families coping with an ALS diagnosis deserve so much more, so much better than the reality that they are currently facing. And as Canadians, we simply cannot afford to lose any momentum for ALS research. I urge every member of this House to give this motion your full support. Your commitment to ALS awareness, research funding, and a comprehensive strategy for the disease will give hope to many people in all our constituencies. We are so very close to treatment breakthroughs for ALS. Help Canada to be a leader in changing the outcome of an ALS diagnosis from terminal to treatable. Thank you all very, very much for your consideration.
Questions and comments, questions et commentaires.